Thank you, Deep Roy Clywyd. The abolition of the 7 bridge tolls has proved to be a massive benefit for the people of Wales. As the stranglehold of tolls was released by the UK Government in 2017, businesses and commuters were relieved of massive financial burdens, with some motorists saving as much as £1,400 per year. Removing the 7 bridge toll road will have undoubtedly opened up South Wales to many businesses who would have seen the toll road as a barrier to conducting commerce. And, as a result, axing of the tolls has generated an estimated annual boost of over £100 million to the Welsh economy. The technology sector is seeing unprecedented growth in Cardiff, leading the UK's major cities at 7%, on par with Manchester and ahead of London and Bristol. I believe, and indeed my party believes, that introducing new toll roads would only serve to suffocate that growth. As the Deputy Minister, many here will be aware, surveys commissioned by the Welsh Government have asked road users about paying to use parts of the M4 and the A470 in a bid to tackle poor air quality. We understand that this is part of the Welsh Government's legal responsibility to survey for other possible actions that could help improve air quality. I had asked a written question during recess, and I can also thank my colleague Tom Gifford for his question to the First Minister regarding this issue, and to the First Minister for his response yesterday. I am sure it would have gone some way to reassuring the wider public that toll road proposals were not part of the Welsh Government's current forward plan. However, it is without question that the Welsh Government must recognise that surveying people about toll roads and being very specific about the M4 and A470 as possible locations will put into people's minds that this is a course of action that the Government are considering. I hope the Government can acknowledge the considerable concern among motorists and businesses that this would have caused. Therefore, the point of this motion today is that we want to rule out completely toll roads as a measure to address poor air quality in future. In South Wales, particularly, we face an air quality problem. A recent BBC article highlighted how the World Health Organization now believes that the effects of poor air quality are far worse than previously thought. This debate is therefore timely in that we get the opportunity to discuss the issue of poor air quality, which is at crisis point. We have proposed the further motions to try and address these concerns. I would like to go on record to say that I and my party would oppose any introduction of tolls as a solution to poor air quality on the grounds that they will have a devastating impact on the lowest paid workers who will have to pay a disproportionate amount of their income to use the roads and are those most likely to have older vehicles. Moreover, the introduction of tolls would undoubtedly push drivers to go around them and onto smaller roads. This would, of course, cause an increase in traffic and ultimately reduce air quality in other places. We have seen this with the pedestrianisation of Castle Street in Cardiff, a concern that the First Minister has raised himself in this chamber. The issue exists that electric vehicles are being welcomed as a major solution to poor air quality. However, Wales as a nation has very little provision when it comes to electric charging points. Many of those who currently use electric vehicles are able to have charging points fitted at their homes, but many people in Wales live in flats and terraced houses where they need to park some distance from their homes and would struggle to use electric charging points. While Scotland has 7.5 rapid charging points per 100,000 people, Wales only has 1.8. We are calling for the Welsh Government to deliver a more rapid rollout of electric charging points, because this will be a key driver in encouraging people to invest in electric vehicles as a valid alternative to diesel and petrol vehicles. The Welsh Government says at least 55,000 publicly accessible charging points will be needed in Wales by 2030 in order to support sufficient electric vehicles. We really need to understand, without politicising the issue, whether this target is likely to be achieved, because the lack of charging points is fast becoming the limiting factor for electric vehicle ownership. I believe that one of the best possible ways to really tackle our poor air quality is through the greater use of innovative measures. As the Deputy Minister may already know, I have already written to the Climate Change Committee expressing my concern that the Welsh Government does not seem to be engaging enough with innovation to resolve poor air quality. For example, buses in England have been fitted with devices that can filter air as they travel, removing particulate air pollution and blowing out pure air behind them. These devices can remove up to 1.25 kilograms of particulates from the air each year, and I believe that it is ludicrous that these devices are not on every bus in Wales. Similarly, the Netherlands, among other countries, are now using smog-free towers, which can clean up to 3.5 million cubic metres of air per day. Why aren't these towers on our roundabouts? These are quite cost-effective solutions to a major problem. This government has placed considerable emphasis on their active travel plan, encouraging people to cycle and walk. Academically, this is a great solution to the problem, and one that I and my party support. We want to see active travel plans expand to meet its real potential. However, it is held back by two major issues, which in my mind need resolving for the active travel plan to really succeed. The first is that roads are not safe enough for cyclists. Whilst the dedicated cycle paths provide safe travel routes, travelling on roads to and from the dedicated paths are extremely dangerous. The inside of roads are often full of potholes and stones, which not only make cycling unpleasant, but hazardous. There's also the threat from being hit from cars, vans and lorries. Whilst the majority of drivers are considerate of cyclists, there remain some drivers who are far too aggressive around cyclists, hurling abuse at them, and sometimes even deliberately trying to knock them off their bikes. Very often, cars and lorries drive too close to cyclists as they become frustrated at the speed of travel. Cyclists are forced into the curb by motor vehicles. They have to deal with car doors opening suddenly, and if they get pushed off their bikes, they frequently end up in road verges that are often full of broken glass, nails, dead animals, and litter of all descriptions. In 2019, there were 2 motor vehicle deaths per billion mile, whilst for cyclists it was 29, and pedestrians it was 35. In terms of serious injury, motor vehicle users had 29 serious injuries per billion miles, while cyclists had 1,255 and pedestrians 504. In the National Travel Attitudes Survey, 2/3 of the population above 16 years old agree that it is too dangerous to cycle on roads. Ultimately, for cyclists, it doesn't matter who's at fault, they will always be worse off with the impact of a motor vehicle. On Monday, there was a BBC report about the death of Andy Fowle, a retired consultant who died when his bike was in collision with a bus in Snowdonia. While cyclists and walkers use active travel routes, they're exercising, and with that, they're breathing more heavily, which in areas of poor air quality can only be a bad thing. Finally, I want to say about free bus passes and how extending them for those who are 16 to 25-year-olds will be a great way of encouraging teenagers and young adults to prioritise the use of buses throughout their lives. I and my party believe that this would help encourage the behavioural change that we need to promote bus travel as a viable alternative to the car. Deep Clawydd, I move the motion.